Hi, can a husband and wife agree on the lifestyle issues of retirement? Stay tuned and we'll discuss these things together.
Thanks for watching. This is Richard and my beautiful wife, Sally.
Well, hi everyone. Thank you for joining us today. You are loved. Don't forget to click subscribe, leave your likes, and we must have your comments. That's really important. We want to know how things are going for you in terms of preparing for your retirement.
So today we're going to be looking at some lifestyle choices. We all have certain choices that we all prefer. I have my preferences. Sally has her preferences. You have your preferences in your own situation. Yes. So we're more in the pre-retirement here. Last time we got together, we were talking about finding the perfect climate to live in, where we're going to live as far as what city, state, country. We've got all kinds of areas we're looking at. We're going to be looking over insurance issues and various cost of living. So we'll be dealing with all those things here over the next 8 months. But today we're going to be talking about lifestyle issues. Now, sometimes this can bring up some emotional things.
Yes.
It can touch home pretty deep. So we're going to go over those lifestyle issues here in a moment. Now, I happen to know a couple of people that are probably not as happy as they'd like to be going into retirement, and maybe that's keeping them from even retiring. Yeah. One lady I know, she's 70 years old. She will not retire because she doesn't like the way her husband takes care of things at the house. And she says, well, I'm just better off working and not having to deal with it.
Is that because he's messy?
One reason he's messy, just the way things are handled around the house. So
that would be a tough one.
And so she doesn't like that. We're trying to work on some of those things.
Right.
Sally, you have any examples of some stories?
Well, I heard today when I was at church that unfortunately somebody's husband is forced into retirement because his health is not doing well. So there's just every scenario. But I agree with Richard. There's so many things that we're learning that couples have to come into agreement about if you want to have a happy retirement. And we would like to have a happy retirement. So we are going through these issues now, working on them together, doing good homework, trying to do as much planning as we can so we're just not caught totally off guard. We want to make sure that we have the same interest in mind, that we agree on where we want to live together in retirement, just a lot of different things.
If you have any stories like that, leave some comments. It helps other people. How did you deal with it? Did you deal with it? Some cases it's tough to deal with.
Right.
And it can be sometimes medical issues.
Right.
Can affect how retirement's going to go. I just heard another story today from a lady who was downsizing. Right. And she had 5,000 square foot house. She was going to downsize. Said it's time to get rid of all this. And it's a tough issue when you're downsizing. She came down to her father's clock, and she could always remember him winding that clock, getting ready to go to bed. And she could never throw that away. So there's a lot of emotional issues when we look at downsizing. Let's talk about downsizing because that's kind of something we have been talking about. We just talked about today. Sally says, I need to get rid of some of my emergency things around the house. And what do you think?
Well, we're trying to come into agreement like what furniture do we need to downsize out of our house. Richard in the past has purchased a lot of survival type supplies. What are we going to do with those? So, details, there's a lot of little details, and we have to come into agreement in order for things to work out, even in the small area of the details, right?
So downsizing would be one issue. Another issue in lifestyle choices is what climate. For us, it's kind of what climate we want to live in.
Right.
And what's your opinion on the climate?
Well, we live in the Northwest now, and you can't beat the West Coast for summers and for springtime and even the fall. But now we're entering, into the rainy season little by little. And so that can be a bit depressing. I mean, we've lived here 27 years and we've loved every minute of it, but we are at the point where we'd like to see more sunshine in our lives, because I can tell mentally that when I'm in sunshine, I think clearer, I'm in a better mood. it would just be nice to be outside and do more things outside and have nice weather to always do them in. What do you think about that?
And yes, and so that the question is where is that going? We've been happy here, but now Sally really loves the trees, and I do too.
I
But I like
know.
more sun, so sun's going to put us down into an area where there's less trees. And so, is that going to be in Southwest United States? I kind of like areas even in Mexico, other places. So we've got to iron that out here. Another area that is a big concern for a lot of folks is your leisure time.
Yes.
What exactly? I know situations. Well, in general, men have a vision of retiring and going out and playing golf and hanging out at the hardware store. Okay,
Not me.
and women, what do women kind of envision?
Well, I wouldn't be hanging out at the hardware store. That would not be my idea of fun. Well, I want to have good girlfriends to do things with. That's important to me. I like to be outside, especially if I'm going to have nice weather. We both love to go hiking and just to see God's beauty. I like to do ministry. I want to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ, and we like doing that together. So Richard talks about Mexico, and I say, well, I'm not sure I'd know how to tell anybody about Jesus in Mexico because my Spanish is rusty. So I got to work on my Spanish if we're going to do that. So there's another detail that we have to work out, a language barrier if we're going to head down south into Mexico.
Right. And so not all men want to play golf. Maybe you like to tinker with your car,
right,
or you have some other activities that you could be reading, or maybe you'll have a hobby that you enjoy. So
right,
having understanding how much time you're going to spend on hobbies and leisure time. Another area I think is probably going to hit home with more women, from what I've seen, is grandchildren.
right.
And Sally, what's your thoughts on grandchildren?
Well, right now our daughters are not married. They don't have children. They're both going to be, Richard didn't really mention, but we're trying to gear up for retirement in 2020 because they're both going to be graduating from college. And we alluded to that in our last video. So we don't have grandchildren right now. So we have a little bit of freedom probably for 3 to 5 years to live where we'd like to live. We could even do 6 months here, a year there, 8 months here, to see some parts of the world we haven't seen yet. While our health is good, while we feel like traveling. So we've been discussing those things a lot. But I know if you have grandchildren, if we had grandchildren, of course we'd want to be settling down nearby. But yet, when you have more than one child, it's like, okay, if you have one child living on one end of the U.S. and the other child living on the other end of the U.S., how do you do it? We have neighbors that live behind us, and the way they handle it is they go for 2 to 3 months into Dallas where they have one daughter living, and then the rest of the time they're spending time with their daughter that's here locally and her children. So they're always dividing their time between the grandkids, which I think is very admirable. So, but we have that freedom right now to kind of move around and not have to worry about it for a little bit of time here.
So those are some of the major issues that we've got to iron out here. Downsizing, what are we going to get rid of? There's a lot of emotional stuff.
Yes.
We've got boxes of pictures that we haven't looked at in 15 years.
Well, maybe you haven't, but
right.
I have.
And so what are you going to do with those pictures? I'm sure, I know you can upload them, but that's going to take a ton of time.
Right.
We've got a closet full of clothes.
Right.
And so that's an issue. We got downsizing, where we're going to be, and what type of a climate do we want to be in? Children, where are they going to be? So we're going to be ironing these things out over the next 8 to 9 months. Stick with us. We'll be having more videos on this, and we're also going to be heading down to Mexico, southern Mexico, Puerto Escondido area, and Oaxaca, and taking a look at some areas down there. So we'll be doing some videos on those. And so we look forward to reporting on our activities here over the next 8 months and how we're dealing with it. Of course, we want to hear from you.
Yes.
How did you deal with these things? What was the result? We want to hear some feedback. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and if you like any part of the video, hit the like button.
Yeah, we want to hear your side of the story. How are you and your spouse handling the retirement issues. And we want to thank you for joining us. And stay tuned because, as Richard said, we're going to be doing a lot more videos talking about couples and coming in to retirement.
Thanks for watching.